are gathered again physically and also remotely, but based here at our home for the holidays at Plymouth Church of the Pilgrims. We offer our thanks to the Plymouth community for making the sanctuary at Plymouth available to us once again. I am particularly grateful to my colleague, Reverend Brett Younger, and for all of the staff, Molly Martinez, and all those who have enabled us to be able to be present. We are live streaming and Zooming our services tonight and tomorrow, and I trust that after 18 months, I don't need to go through the full litany of how to use Zoom and live stream. I hope. Call up one of your teenage relatives, they'll walk you through it. That's what we do in my household. We are gathered, both literally and figuratively, to usher in the new year. Rosh Hashanah, the start of the year. Not like the secular new year, not a night of raucous celebration, but rather an opportunity to reflect. An exceptional Rosh Hashanah, for our deeds pale in comparison to the world around us and all that we have been through. We are still coming to terms with the events through which we are still living. Nevertheless, we are an ancient people. We have lived through pandemics and pogroms, and we've marked the passing of the year always as we have been able. It is a pleasure then to gather with the cantor and our choir, Miriam Daly at the piano, Jody Beater at the cello, as we seek not so much to return to normal, but to face forward toward the familiar. For indeed, that is what we must do. We must move forward, much familiar, some quite different, and some yet unknown. We are going to be using Mishkan HaNefesh, our holiday machzor, that includes the special prayers for the new year and next week for the Day of Atonement. I will be calling out the page numbers, which many of you know is a little bit of a bugaboo of mine. I hate having to call out page numbers, but I will be, because that way those who are following remotely as well as those in the sanctuary can follow along. If you're following remotely on the live stream or Zoom, there is a CCAR flip book that allows you to follow the same pages we are following in Mishkan HaNefesh, the Tabernacle of the Spirit. It goes without saying, but perhaps actually not, that the prayer book, the machzor, the holiday machzor, is a bit of a challenge in that it's not intended that we use every bit that's on the page. So you will hear me frequently talking about upper right, lower left, and whatnot. Hopefully it won't be too demanding. As I like to say, if you simply say one word, you get credit for all the prayers. That word is Amen. And that way you'll know that you're covered. We are going to open our machzor, our holiday prayer book, now to page 11 as we begin with the kindling of our festival lights. You'll find that on page 11. The first mitzvah in the Torah is let there be light. So we are commanded in everything you do, be a light, be a menorah, be a bringer of light, live with honor, act with integrity, do your work with passion. And the radiance of your deeds will live after you. Perhaps not the match, though. May our ideals burn bright, forever unextinguished, and may we live our lives like the flame, hopefully, that we are about to kindle, always stretching upward striving for the good, reaching for the divine. Eternal our God, you fill the universe with majestic might, teaching us holiness through sacred obligations, giving us the mitzvah of bringing light on this festival. You fill the universe with majestic might, giving us life, upholding the life within us, and bringing us to this time. Kindling lights is the last activity of the work week, whether for Shabbat or festival. There is now an action of modernity that we can undertake, which is an act, not so much action as refrain. Perhaps you have one of these devices. Might I encourage you to turn it off, power it down, let the symphony play its last final chorus, set it for airplane mode. I promise now is the time you want it to go off. Please, not later into the service. Also, believe it or not, the CDC has advised that I should encourage you, while it is perfectly appropriate to read along in soft voice, and perhaps even to hum, with the exception of the choir, the cantor, and myself. You'll notice those special singer's masks. We've also been tested, PCR tested, to make sure, even with our current vaccination, that we don't have any breakthroughs. We've been encouraged to tell people not to sing out because that's risky. So rather, maybe you'd like to hum gently next to as we go along. Certainly, we encourage you to read along in soft voice. We are at page 16 in the prayer book, page 16. And I want to invite you to take a moment to read the individual reflection silently or softly. We rise now for the opening of the Ark. We are at page 19. אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו, יהי רצון שנזכה לברכותיך בשנת 5782. אלוהי עולם ברך אותנו ואת כל בית ישראל בחידוש ימינו, בשמחת ובשלום, בנחמה ובאומץ לב, בחילוץ עצמות וברוח איתנה. יהי פרי שפתנו מקובל ורצוי מלפניך. בפרוס השנה החדשה, לעד מודים אנחנו לך על מתנת החיים. Together, our God and God of our ancestors, may we know your blessing in the year 5782. Eternal One, bless us and the whole house of Israel with renewed life, happiness and peace, comfort and courage, resilience and strength. May the words of our heart be acceptable to you in the new year that stretches before us. We are forever grateful for the gift of life. We continue with the call to worship, the Baruch Hu, on page 20. Everyone. We continue together on page 22. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv arabim. Blessed are you, Adonai, your great name fills the universe with majestic might. Your word creates twilight and dusk, as your wisdom opens the gates of night. Your discernment separates the changing seasons and causes the passage of time. The stars arrayed across the sky reveal your design. You roll out the cycle of darkness and light, shaping day and night. You sweep away day and carry the world into nightfall, setting day apart from nighttime. You are God of all we can perceive and all that is beyond our perception. Living, eternal God, be our sovereign to the end of time. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, creator of twilight and dusk. We join with the cantor Ahavat Olam, page 24.
Stars בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבדיך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להוד על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Page 30.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We are at the bottom of page 33. You have stayed long enough in this place, God said. Time to go forward. Turn your face to the future. Believe that you can cross this sea and survive. Inside you is a Moses, within you Miriam dances unafraid. Lift up your voice and sing a new song. The words of Mi Chamocha, the middle of page 34.
Mi Chamocha ba'elim Adonai, Mi Chamocha ne'etar ba'kodesh, Norati osek velem. Malchutecha ra'u banecha, וכהים לפני משה ומרים, זה לי אנו ואמרו, אדוני עמנו לעולם ועד. ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, ברוך שמו לישראל. אמן.
Page 36, Hashkivim. for Rosh Hashanah that transitions us toward Tefillah, back on page 15, as the cantor leads us in Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar.
תיקו, בחודש שופר, בכסף עליון חגנו, תיקוק לישראל, משפט אלוהי יעקב. תיקו, בחודש שופר, בכסף עליון חגנו, תיקוק לישראל, משפט אלוהי יעקב.
At the new moon and at the full moon, for our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel and the way of the God of Jacob. We turn ahead now as we rise for Adonai Sifatai, page 42, the beginning of the Tefillah. Page 42, as we all now rise.
Somech no fibro
Page 49.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה.
And so in your holiness, give all creation the gift of awe. Turn our fear to reverence. Let us be witnesses of wonder, perceiving all nature as a prayer come alive. We bow to the sovereignty of your strength, the primacy of your power. We yearn for connection with all that lives, doing your will with whole heart. Awe-inspiring is your creation, all-encompassing your transcendent name. And so in holiness, give your people the gift of honor. Bless with praise those who praise you. Bless with hope those who seek you. Give your believers a basis for faith, true happiness for the land of Israel, true joy in Jerusalem. May the sparks of David, your servant, soon grow bright enough for us to see a beam of light in the darkness, a promise of perfection. Give the righteous the gift of a vision, bright with joy, a world where evil has no voice and the rule of malevolence fades like wisps of smoke. Good people everywhere will celebrate the stunning sight of arrogance gone from the earth. Page 52, together, you and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation. Upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, Adonai will reign eternally. Your God, Zion, for all generations. Hallelujah. You are holy. Your name is awesome. There is nothing divine beyond you. As the prophet Isaiah taught, the source of all might is exalted through justice, the God of holiness made holy through righteousness.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
HaMelech HaKadosh.
We continue silently through Tefillah through page 66.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Lamcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Lamcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom v'tov beinenecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. בספר חיים ברכה ושלום, ברכה ושלום ופרנסה טובה, ברכה ושלום נזכר ונתכתב לפניך. אנחנו עם כל עמך בית ישראל, לחיים טובים ולשלום. ברוך אתה אדוני עושה השלום.
Let us and the whole family of Israel be remembered and inscribed for this year in the book of life. May it be a life of goodness, blessing, and prosperity, and may it be a life of peace. The words of Elohai Nitzur can be found on page 68.
Kalalai nafsiti dom v'nafsiti aparla kohi Elohai, Elohai.
Elohai nitzur l'shanim ha'ra u'svatayim l'ber merma v'lam kalalai nafsiti dom v'nafsiti aparla kohi Elohai, Elohai. Kalalai nafsiti dom v'nafsiti aparla kohi Elohai, Elohai.
You can find the meditation for Avinu Malkeinu on page 75 in the gray text. Avinu Malkeinu, a prayer for renewal. We haven't forgotten Avinu Malkeinu, though we've overthrown kings and we disobey fathers and we have no great liking for absolute power. Akiva stood before you in a time of drought, and his words went up like a flame on the altar. Avinu Malkeinu, you alone are our ruler. Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion for us. Akiva was humble and forgiving, and so his prayer was answered. Tonight we speak again in a time of drought. Dry ground beneath us, no water, only rock. Not a hunger for bread or a thirst for water, but hearts that are longing to hear God's voice. For the sea of faith is all but gone. The tide's gone out on the empty beach. The world mocks our hopes and life tests our courage. Why do the wicked live on and prosper? Why are you silent when they prey upon the innocent? And if your dominion is kindness and justice, then why is creation in so much pain? Avinu Malkeinu, sustain our souls. Send rain to our roots. Help us find a way to pray. Make us humble and forgiving of ourselves and one another. Avinu Malkeinu. Renew these words. Help us speak them with conviction and believe their truth. 100 generations have stood before the ark, and they lifted up their voices like flame on the altar. They put their trust in kindness and justice, and they gave their strength to make the promise real. Avinu Malkeinu, we haven't forgotten. Avinu Malkeinu, bring us back to you. Please rise, everyone. Avinu Malkeinu, ein lanu melech ela ata.
Avinu Malkeinu,
Almighty and merciful, you alone are our sovereign. Avinu Malkeinu lemancha rachem aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, for your sake show us mercy. Avinu Malkeinu aseh imanu lema'an shemecha. Avinu Malkeinu, act towards us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu shlach refuah shlema lecholei amecha. Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to ill among us. Avinu Malkeinu kara roa gezerah dinenu. Avinu Malkeinu, allay the harshness of the decree against us. Avinu Malkeinu kodvenu b'sefer geula v'shua. Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption and renewal. Avinu Malkeinu zochrenu b'zichron tov lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind. Avinu Malkeinu, aseh lemancha v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Koleinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chatanu lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Amol aleinu, ve'al tal aleinu, v'tapeinu.
together. Avinu Malkeinu, Honenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu ma'asim, ma'asei imanu, tzedakah v'chesed v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Please be seated, everyone. Shana Tova. So I'm just going to come out and say it. 5,781 was a crappy year. It was. For the last year in sum, we, like all of humanity, have lived not only with the pandemic and fear, caution, restraint, but also with tremendous frustration, fatigue, and disappointment. In our tiny corner of this world and of this great metropolis, we have managed, by and large, to weather illness and isolation. Nevertheless, some of us suffered tragic losses. Others were able, by luck or resource, to ride out most of the catastrophic impact of the pandemic. Many of us manifested true resolve, resilience, fortitude, keeping up flagging spirits, attending to the needs, fears, wants of others, whether family, neighbors, friends, or strangers. Looking back to last year, we began with our High Holy Day observances, demonstrating remarkable creativity, ingenuity, and resolve, excited by our own flexibility and inventiveness. Zoom offered us unexpected technical innovation and a much-needed, if limited, form of human interaction. And like Jews of every generation, we patiently and hopefully awaited the coming not of the Messiah descended from David, but the arrival of the much-promised vaccinations that would end the pandemic and, we thought, return life to normal. But life, we know, never moves in a straight line. A year later, while we have made much progress, we've also taken a few unexpected side turns. Rather than finding ourselves at what we hoped would be the end of the journey, we see that we are perhaps more accurately restarting in the middle. I composed an email that's going to go out on Thursday, reminding us that the Jewish New Year, like the academic year, actually begins in the middle of the year. And so tonight we celebrate the first day of the 7th month, Tishrei. It is literally at this moment the very beginning of the first day of the second half of the Jewish year. I find it a very Jewish approach to restart things right in the middle of it all, in the midst of everything that is continuing around us. Nothing is ended, and the world continues on as it has up till this moment. Some people haven't even noticed it's a new year. Just walk down Henry Street. Restarting in the middle is an oddly Jewish melding of hope and disappointment. Here in Brownstone, Brooklyn, we have taken the 3 proverbial steps forward into the new year. But in some cases and other places, it seems, 1 or 2 or even 3 steps back. Sometimes it's hard to see where to step next, backwards or forwards. Where does one place one's foot? How do you find a sense of balance? Tonight, I want to assert that the progress we have made, at least here in New York City, is real and demonstrable. But progress, as we know, is never a straight line. One of the surest signs for me that New York is moving forward are the crowds of tourists you can now find in Midtown Manhattan. As Broadway and other tourist venues reopen, New York City has mandated that everyone, customers, employees, residents, commuters, and visitors alike, in settings ranging from arenas to coffee shops to yoga studios, must, like you tonight, show proof of vaccination. And that's a citywide mandate beginning in 6 days from tomorrow on September 13th. Now, speaking of New York City tourists, God bless them and protect them, in the words of Fiddler. I occasionally have told my kids that here's how you can spot a tourist in New York. They saunter, then suddenly stop and look up. Born and bred New Yorkers, on the other hand, tend to keep moving while looking forward and down. As a New York City kid raised in Queens and the Bronx in the 1970s, I was taught to keep one eye forward and the other eye down on the ground in front of me. The eye forward was to keep a lookout for errant cars, bicycles, dogs, and shopping carts that might be less attentive than I was. The eye down was for a myriad of concerns, including dog poop and puddles, broken sidewalks, and glass. A talented, or at least capable New Yorker, my mom insisted, should and could traverse all these while simultaneously and successfully navigating to one's destination. Looking up was literally for the birds, and who knew what they would flick at your eye? But even we jaded New Yorkers know that in truth, there must be moments, however infrequent, but deeply necessary, when we do stop, when we do look up, when we see more than merely the next obstacle or danger to be bypassed. Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, writing about the imagery of Yom Kippur's Unatana Tokef prayer, which deals with the question of how all human beings respond to life's difficulties, writes, "The first way human beings can choose to act is, in the words of the Unatonic Tokef prayer, like sheep, the head of one facing the tail of the other, eyes downcast, hearts frightened. Like sheep, we human beings can become acclimated to fear, accustomed to keeping our eyes downcast while trudging forward. We can forget to stop. We can forget to look up. We can forget the need not just to look, but to see." I wonder how many of us have made it through the past year or months or just the summer in just such a manner, moving forward, but with head and eyes down, just hoping, praying that when we finally do stop and look up, things will be back to normal. Of course, there is no going back, only forward. Not back to normal, but perhaps forward toward the familiar. The passages of Torah associated with the new year celebrate the human ability to stop and see beyond the moment. The most frequent phrase we hear is Vayisa einav vayar. He raised his eyes and he saw. When Abraham arrives in Canaan and is commissioned, God says, "Raise your eyes and see from the place where you are." A few chapters later we read, "And the Eternal appeared to Abraham, and Abraham raised his eyes and saw, and behold, 3 angels were standing before him. Abraham saw, and he ran toward them." And then in the narrative traditionally read tomorrow, the Akedah, on the 3rd day, Abraham raised his eyes and saw the place from afar. Place can also be a name for God, by the way. And later at the end of that ordeal, we read, Abraham raised his eyes and saw, and behold, a ram was caught in the thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up as a burnt offering instead of his son. Abraham called the name of that place Adonai Yireh, as it is said to this day, on the Mount of the Eternal there is sight. The American Hebrew scholar Robert Alter comments in his new translation, the text is not clear whether it is God or the person coming to the mount who sees or is seen. Later in Genesis, we read Jacob raised his eyes and saw, and behold, Esau. And then 2 verses later, Esau raised his eyes and saw Jacob's wives and children. A generation later, and Joseph raised his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother. And then in the book of Numbers, Balaam, the sorcerer, raised his eyes and saw Israel dwelling by its tribes, and the Spirit of God came upon him. Even in the book of Joshua, it happened when Joshua was at Jericho that Joshua raised his eyes and saw, and behold, an angel was standing before him. To raise one's eyes and see is something much more than to look or stare. It is a mode of experience and encounter that is personal and spiritual and ultimately satisfies a deep human need to connect with another. It's one thing to look at a person. It is another thing to see a person. To look is just staring. Pirkei Avot hints at the difference in the famous adage, Al tistakel bekankan ele b'ma sheyesh bo. Don't stare at the jug, but rather see what's inside. Over the last year, much of what we have been doing to get through our day is the equivalent of that Hebrew verb lehistakel. We've stared at and assessed things while still moving, good New Yorkers that we are. We x-ray both things and people with our tunnel vision, keeping one eye forward, one eye down, so that we can make it through our day to avoid the next obstacle. And we need to. But that is an entirely different faculty than stopping, raising our eyes, and seeing. This past year, we have done and needed to do a tremendous amount of looking and staring at the news, at reports, at statistics, at labels, at signage, at guidelines. We cannot, should not, must not deny the very real suffering and dangers and ongoing difficulties we have endured since March of 2020. But if that is all we see, all we stare at day in and day out, all that we allow ourselves to focus upon, then we have chosen a myopia instead of true sight. A myopia that denies what is also real and good. Sight, true sight that now hints at least at the possibility of eventual better tidings for the future. Tonight, I encourage us all, perhaps most of all myself, to stop for just a moment, stop staring at the latest report, news broadcast, phone alert. I want to encourage us, instead of staring and looking, to raise our eyes, to see past the jug, past the surface, past the moment, past this fleeting, troubling, and disappointing moment in our nation, because yes, it is. But I want us to raise our eyes and see past it, to see beyond the chaos and the crisis of now. I am not encouraging us to deny the very real reality of the moment, but I am asking us to stop long enough to see over it, to see beyond it. The old blue gates of prayer reminds us that human experience is constantly twined and twinned. We Jews worship the power that unites all the universe in one great harmony. That oneness, however, is not yet. We see imperfection, disorder, and evil all about us. But before our eyes is also a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. These two we have known in some measure. There is evil enough to break the heart, enough good to exalt the soul. Our people has experienced untold suffering and wondrous redemptions. We await a redemption more lasting and more splendid than any of the past. Rabbi Simcha Bunim of Przzucha taught, a person must have two pockets. In Rav Simcha's day, you were lucky to have one pocket. Nevertheless, a person should have two pockets. In the right pocket, one should write out the words from Mishnah Sanhedrin, "For my sake the world was created." In the left pocket, from Genesis, "I am but dust and ashes." Reb Simcha advised, take out the words as needed. I might offer a variation tonight on Rabbi Bunim's teaching. Here goes. A person is born with two eyes, usually, but must strive to see with a third eye. One eye must stare down to avoid the dangers and obstacles of life. All us New Yorkers. A second eye must look forward to chart our progress ahead. And our third eye must be raised up to see the possibilities of life that are not yet apparent. Let our eyes not be downcast, nor our spiritual strength depleted. Let us stop and breathe and raise our eyes and see and behold. In the words of Scripture, there is a place that I will show you. Stand upon the rock, and I will make my goodness pass before you. L'Shana Tova, wishes for a sweet and healthy new year. We are going to rise once again as we turn to Aleinu on page 82.
Alleluia, Alleluia,
May the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love, when corruption and evil shall give way to integrity and goodness, when lies and bigotry shall no longer enslave the mind, nor idolatry blind the eye. So may all created in your image become one in spirit and one in friendship, forever united in your service. Then shall your realm be established on earth and the word of your prophet fulfilled. Adonai will reign forever and ever. Please be seated, everyone. Mikhail? So we offered the president of our congregation, Marcia Bellows, two options. Door number one was to come up here and deliver the presidential address with her mask on. Door number two was she got to record the presidential address in the sanctuary without mask on. So we're going to get to see Marcia's recording of the president, and she did a great job. So, and we're gonna, can we center this just so it's centered on the video? Can we, no, maybe? Put it in the middle, maybe? Thank you. That's sort of close.
I want to welcome all of you to our BHS High Holiday services. Whether you are physically with us here in Plymouth Church or you are with us remotely at home, I wish you all a happy and healthy new year. With vaccinations on the rise, I am hopeful that we can all be physically together again soon. I want to take this moment to express gratitude to the congregants, clergy, and staff who work so hard to keep our community viable and spiritually connected by implementing, participating in, or even by just attending our offerings over the past 18 months. Despite the challenging landscape, with your participation and support, we achieved some major successes this year. Our membership is strong. I want to thank all of you who stayed on as members and have now renewed your membership for this coming year. I am also deeply thankful to those members who stepped up to support us financially and enable enabled us to operate, and most importantly, helped us keep our staff fully employed without any layoffs. A robust membership is the lifeline of any synagogue, and we could not achieve our mission to nurture and support our Jewish community without your support. With determination, we overcame the many obstacles that COVID put in our way. First, with meticulous safety protocols in place, we successfully operated an in-person preschool program serving 80 children and their families. Much thanks goes to Pam Carlin, her incomparable staff, and a special thank you goes to the families who trusted us with the safety of their children. Also, with protocols in place, we were able to offer in-person bar and bat mitzvahs and confirmation all in the sanctuary. Our religious school inspired students remotely. We received spiritual sustenance on Zoom at Friday night services, and our member engagement and member and social justice initiatives continue to thrive. With Sue Gold's retirement approaching this past June, we successfully held a major job search for a new executive director, again, primarily on Zoom. Welcome to our new executive director, Linda Harvey. This past January, we showed faith in our future when, after years of planning, we moved forward with our project to combine and renovate our two buildings at 127 and 131 Remsen Street, the end result of which will bring us over 50% more of additional square feet. We expect that by Rosh Hashanah of next year, we will finally have a facility that will meet the needs of our thriving congregation. In conjunction with the building project, we reactivated the capital campaign, which has now raised about 80% of the money needed to fund the project. Thank you to our campaign chairs, Susan Chaddock and Dave Smetana, and their dedicated committee. And many thanks to the members of our community who have supported the campaign. The building project and campaign are the cornerstone to the strength of future generations at BHS. L'dor v'dor, from one generation to the next. Finally, I cannot express enough gratitude to our clergy, teachers, and staff who were very much our frontline workers who came into the building in person to administer and sustain us. Some even commuting on the subway to get to BHS when everyone else was staying at home. Much thanks goes to Rabbi Lip, Cantor Ayelet, Sue Gold, Pam Carlin, and Miriam Daly. I am very much looking forward to celebrating Rabbi Lip's 25th anniversary as our rabbi at BHS. Please mark your calendars for the Silver Jubilee Gala honoring Rabbi Lip on Thursday, May 19th, 2022. In sum, these past 18 months have shown that we are the same strong, kind, caring, and engaged community that we have always been. I look forward to a bright future for BHS. I wish you all a good, happy, and sweet New Year.
Marcia, maybe I should have recorded. What do you think? And I could have taken my mask off. That was terrific. Thank you. Thank you. Yesh koyach. Page 86 in the Machzor. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination. But life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing. A journey from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom. A journey from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness and back, we pray, to health again. Life is a journey. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith. Life is a journey from one defeat till the next, till looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, but life is a journey, sacred pilgrimage, made stage by stage from birth to death, to life everlasting. We recall these recent passings in our congregational community. Etta Barkus is recalled by Grace and Bob Vogel, Josh and Scott. Irene Dash is recalled by Mordecai and Lori Moore, Rose and Orrin. Nina Taft and Stephen Schechter are recalled by my family. We also call to mind those whose yahrzeit falls at this season. Christina Epstein-Wise is recalled by David Wise. Ernest Griesbach is recalled by Leslie Schultz. Sylvia Kaplan is recalled by Sandra Schapp. Dorothy Meltzer-Robbins is recalled by Jeremy Robbins. Linda Carr is recalled by Daniel Carr. Jane Dunn is recalled by Patricia Rodenhouse-Kay. Libby Shapiro, Yisrael Shapiro, Isser Shapiro, Moshe Shapiro, and Esther Shapiro and Chaya Shapiro are all recalled by Laura Shapiro. Roshi Brody Freed. Laura, are you here? Is that also one of yours? I see it unattached. No? Yeah, that's okay. Roshi Brody Freed, recalled by the congregation. Wilford Birnbaum is recalled by Rachel Birnbaum. Pearl Shapiro is also recalled by Laura Shapiro. Phyllis Strauss is recalled by Peter Strauss, and Rezel Shapiro is recalled by Laura Shapiro. Nazim Gabay is recalled by Ed Gabay, Robin Slade, Jesse and family. Nancy Brum is recalled by Nina Epstein. Annette Pollard is recalled by Gary Pollard. Jonathan Gradis is recalled by Jennifer Wilkov. Harry Applebaum is recalled by Amy Applebaum. Jay Schwartz is recalled by Matthew Schwartz. Lawrence Carlin is recalled by Neil Carlin. Lee Feldman is recalled by Linda Feldman. Elias David First is recalled by Michael First. Diana Linetsky is recalled by Mark Linetsky. Carol Katz is recalled by Renee Fishzone. Richard Rosen is recalled by Cecile Hanft. Sarah Cohen is recalled by Jack Cohen. Inez Janger is recalled by Ted Janger. Sydney Manette is recalled by Jerry Armine Klein. And Justin Newman is recalled by Joel Nowak. If I've inadvertently mispronounced any of these names, or if I have failed to share aloud the name of a loved one who you are calling to mind with the recitation of Kaddish, whether a recent passing or at this season, I'd like to invite you as my hand comes across the congregation to share those names aloud. Zecher Tzadik Livracha, may their memories be for blessing. We sanctify their names even as we sanctify God's name and pray for the coming of God's realm. The words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. We rise as a community on page 90. Page 90, we rise as we are able in body and or spirit for the recitation of the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemer Rabbah V'yalma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael v'agala uv'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabba mevarach leolam u'lalmei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitale v'yitalal Shemei d'kudsha v'richu Le'ela u'le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran v'yalma v'imru Amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'asei shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru Amen. May the source of peace on high cause peace to descend upon us, all Israel, all who dwell on earth, and we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'roma, Oseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel.
V'yimeru. Amen. Please be seated. The briefest of announcements. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. If you show up at 9:30, no one will be here. So you may notice that the services are abbreviated. That allows us to have service but not be together for quite the length of time so that we are cautious about everyone's health. So 10:30, we are hoping to be walking out of the door sometime between 12 and 12:30. I'm not sure. Bring your crumbs. Whatever breadcrumbs you like. We'll walk down to Fulton Landing for Tashlich, accompanied by the police tomorrow night at BHS at 6:30, and then 10:30 again on Wednesday morning in the BHS sanctuary. I'm sure there are many other announcements that I could make, but those are the ones I'm going to make. Look at the website. There's every bit of information that you could need. Page 94, Adon Olam.
Adon olam, asher malach b'terem kol, yitzir nivra, ve'nasa v'chatzo kol, azar ve'shemo nivra, ve'yared v'kot hakol, levado ino nora,
you might notice somewhat new large Kiddush cup. And if you were on this side of the congregation, you might have noticed some new pomegranate crowns on the Torah scroll. Gifts courtesy of Rabbi Molly Kane's discretionary fund as she was departing not from our neighborhood. She's still in Brooklyn, a congregation Beth Elohim, but as she was departing her term of service with us for her new position there, she asked, what could the congregation use? So there we go. Tomorrow when we take the scrolls out, we'll get to see the Rimonim as well. We're in the middle of page 79, and I'm going to invite you to rise for Kiddush. Middle of page 79.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol העם ורוממנו מכל לשון וקידשנו במצוותיו ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה את יום הזיכרון הזה יום תרועה מקרא קדש זכר יציאת מצרים כיוון בחרת ואתה קידשת מכל העמים ודברך אמת וקיים לעד ברוך אתה אדוני מלך על כל הארץ מקדש ישראל ביום הזיכרון.
L'chaim. We are not quite yet back at chains of blessing. Not quite yet. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamosi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu shetechadesh aleinu shana tova u'metuka. Our God and God of our ancestors, eternal God of all generations, may your presence in our lives this year renew our spirits and renew our strength. May it be a good year. May it be a sweet year. L'shana tova tikatevu v'techatemu. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. Shana Tova, Chag Sameach. Good evening, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
חג שמח.
We can do whatever we want with them. I know. Hello, Michael.